Well, the other day I was searching through Amazon Prime Video, and then I came across to what is a brand new War of the Worlds movie. There's another one. So there has been one back in, I believe it was the 60s that they made, where the aliens themselves have got three eyes, red, green, and orange, or something like that. And it is pretty much how the H.G. Wells books describe it from memory itself that way. Then we get, I believe it's 2005 with Tom Cruise, where you get the aliens that look exactly like the tripods themselves, and they get defeated by the Common Cold, basically making it a modern day War of the Worlds. And now we've got the Blair Witch sort of War of the Worlds. But by that, I basically mean is, if you've ever seen the Blair Witch movie, it's someone a bit like myself on a camera, running around, doing all the actions that way. You do get a bit of normal camera action to what you would get in a movie itself. So you get the main character themselves, who works for the American Defense Team, who spy on everyone. He's in his office where he just basically gets a stationary camera pretty much the entire movie itself that way. And then you get his boss, someone from NASA, his two kids, and his son-in-law, who are on video call most of the time with him as well. And throughout this, there is, what's best to say, a scammer who is threatening to leak some actual evidence that the government is basically trying to spy on what's in stuff like your Amazon cart. They'll be able to listen to you without actually having to spy on you that way. A bit like how people who are from a certain generation as well do think that stuff like your Amazon Alexa does. I will say I do know my phone does listen to me sometimes. It was just the other day, me and my wife were talking about getting a new active fryer. I then got tons of recommendations on pretty much anything you went on, such as social media, or even just looking on, say, Amazon. Active fryers came up, which was quite annoying. But back to the new War of the Worlds. So the main characters themselves, they're just going about their day, logging in, having a look at everything. The boss rings them up, tells them that they need to know where this scammer is because they're going to leak some information called Goliath. And basically they use the satellites in the area on all sorts of different platforms like drones and everything, and from that they then see where certain things are coming from that way for them. They then get some sort of a location once YouTube video goes live, and they use the IP address, which then takes them to a building. That ends up being a fake after they get a search warrant, and then everything all just goes back to a bit of a normal part. And then next thing, the person from NASA is in touch with him, and they're basically saying, we're not getting no signal, can you see if there's anything going on? And then all of a sudden his daughter gets in touch with him after he's already been in touch for not long ago, and it's then basically showing you a meteoroid coming down, and then he basically just clicks on to all sorts of cameras that you can see around the world and stuff on the news, and all these meteoroids are falling down to Earth. And then basically he gets back in touch with his friend from NASA, someone else gets in touch with him that then starts speaking, and then one of them who's on the ground goes over. So that's the dog. He's barking again. I'm doing 2 videos in one day. If anyone hasn't seen the last video, I'll put it in the link below as well. But the dog's name's Alan. So the person on the ground goes over to one of the meteoroids, touches it, goes, "Ooh, that's incredibly cold." Next thing, it starts to vibrate, jumps up into a similar sort of style of tripod, apart from this time it's got a tail, really, which that comes into a bit more of play in a bit. And basically it starts to roam around a bit, looks up at the sky where one of the cameras are that basically our main character is watching from. Starts buzzing up itself. He sees some sort of electrics coming all through it, and then it then shoots the actual camera down itself that way. It doesn't try and destroy any life forms. The dog is just barking at the wind, by the way. Yeah, it doesn't just try and kill any humans or anything like that. It then starts grouping up with some others that are in the area, and then it just basically does daft stuff like that. And then his daughter then gets in touch with him. She's then got a paw through her leg. He puts her in a Tesla, drives her to a safe place, and does that, essentially. And then they then find out that all sorts of data is getting wiped out, and one of the tripods has actually been knocked down, but it's still inside of the building, and that's where that tail itself comes in to play again. And its tail is into the building, and one of the main characters who are on the ground goes, "It looks dead, but it feels alive still." So they basically go into the building and start having a look, see that it's basically locked itself into the data of pretty much everything. And then she starts to get attacked from some sort of life form itself. A bit later on, she calls him back up after it looks like she's dead because she doesn't answer her phone straight away. And there's these little spiders, and what they do is they are basically the aliens on this War of the Worlds, and they literally just take out any form of data by stealing it themselves. They then later find out that they are an actual organism with robotic augmentations on themselves that way. Hello, son. This does come into play a bit in a little bit as well. So, there he is there, if anyone wants to see him. Beautiful. Yeah, so as I said, that does come into play in a bit as well. So then they sort of get a phone call off, well, the main character gets a phone call off his son, and his son says, "Dad, I really need to tell you something about what's going on with the government." His dad, the main character, then tells him any sentence that starts with "let me tell you about the government" gets cut off, because he doesn't want to hear about it, because he himself works for the government and thinks that the government that he's working for doesn't have any secrets, and his son's just making stuff up. His son then tries to get back in touch with him a good few bits of times. Eventually, the dad actually finds out, "Oh my word, my son is the one that we have been chasing, and he is the one who's trying to leak out information about the government." His son then shares him the file of what he is leaking out, and it shows you going back all the way down to Area 51 and later instances that these aliens have been here before, and they are known to the government. And it ends up as well that the boss that our main character works for has basically known about this, is actually publicising something called Goliath, which is going to spy on everyone without anyone's permission. And he even gets told, "You launched Goliath, they will come, and they will wipe us out. And that's essentially what they do. In this time as well, they've also figured out that once the tripods themselves start screaming that they have found something of interest, it ends up that point of interest actually is the place where our main character is working. So what they try and do is create a computer virus to kill it, which it works to a certain extent, but then it tries to kill everyone who basically created the virus, so it can actually do what it came to do. It ends up that our main character believes that his son is now dead because of it, but his son is actually thrown off his signal to a different location and ends up he's in a different house altogether. He then needs to write a whole new code in order to actually stop them actually taking all the data and also destroy Goliath at the same time. And then from that, the aliens discover where he is, try and stop him. His son-in-law works for Amazon and drones him what they call a USB stick, and then he has to basically drone this USB stick through all sorts of levels of the building just to actually get it to his father-in-law, which is a bit silly because a top US government building itself would not be leaving doors open regardless of any sort of threat. They would be locked down itself that way. And he's back. He wants another stroke. Isn't he cute? This is what he does. He barks at the air. Now doesn't actually move. He just stands there and barks. He's a loony. And eventually he goes into a room where Goliath is. He then enters the key and it cuts to a blank screen. You then think, oh, he's dead. He then beforehand has sent an email to his two kids saying that parenting is hard. You don't realise how hard it is until you're doing basically parenting by yourself, and he wishes he was there a lot more, and he misses his wife, who sadly passed away prior to any of this happening. And then it then cuts to a phone call that he's got, and it's basically someone in the US government themselves saying that we are starting a new task force, we'd like you to basically take control of it. And then he basically turns around and says, no, I want to be with my family. And that's it. In all fairness, it is half decent, but it's a bit of a refreshing part that we haven't got the aliens trying to kill everyone on Earth again. They're only trying to kill the data that is there. Which it does sort of come into modern day play, as pretty much everything that we have is on data. Without that data, we have no money, we have no internet access, we basically do not live. And in some cases, like in my house as well, if data was lost, I wouldn't be able to heat my house. I wouldn't be able to make sure the house was secured, turn some of the lights on, some of the light switches on, and pretty much do anything in here. My house is fully, in a way, set up for this century where everything runs on data from the Wi-Fi. So it does sort of have relevance to the time, but it's just like, why do we need yet another movie of War of the Worlds? To be honest, the TV series was terrible. Walking sort of dogs as the aliens. Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I thought, I can't watch this no more. It's terrible. But yeah, that is the new War of the Worlds. But if you do want to have a watch of it, feel free to. It is on Amazon Prime, so you will need a subscription for that. Or any family members who has a subscription and you're watching it around theirs that way with them, that's also fine. But yeah, It's definitely a movie to watch, but yeah, you could definitely not watch it if you didn't want to. Just watch this review, really. Right, other than that, that is pretty much everything for the War of the Worlds. That's new. And I'd like to mention as well, before we all go, that our sponsor for this video is Dubby Energy. So yeah, I have been drinking their Japanese soda with 350 ml of water. So what you do is 350 ml of water, 1 scoop of the Japanese soda powder. Other flavours are available as well. They are in the link below as well. And basically you shake it up, drink it like a normal energy drink, and it works completely. I have mentioned before that at the moment, because of what's happened to myself, because I've had my ligament replaced, so I've now got an artificial ligament, I've had my Achilles heel fixed and plantar fasciitis fixed, as well as screws in my foot. I am in some general pain, and due to that I don't sleep a lot on a night now, so having Dubby Energy is definitely excellent for me at the moment. It does help with helping me stay awake during the day, because the longer I stay awake, the better sort of night's sleep I do get. But yeah, thanks to Dubby Energy. Without them, I would not be able to function during the day. And it has also, I will say, is amazing, cut my caffeine intake down. Beforehand as well, on a normal day when I was at work at BT and EE, I would, before I started my shift, make myself a cup of coffee with another cup of coffee on the side in a flask, and then I wouldn't have another coffee on my morning break, but then on my lunchtime and evening break I would then have more coffee itself that way. Now thanks to that, I'm only having 2 cups of coffee a day, one when I first get up in the morning and one around about 3-4 o'clock-ish now, which works out excellent for me as well, having this Dubby Energy, because I can have that at any point during the day. I try not to have it past 6 o'clock because I do want to have a decent sleep and not be wide awake, because it does make you feel that way. I have made that mistake. But yeah, I will thank you very much, and thank you very much for tuning in to Matt's Presents again. I will hopefully bring you some more content throughout the week. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much. Bye for now.